What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Trick 10s. We're working on the Lowe Roughneck 1860 electric only build. This boat is turning out sick. I did not expect this build to be as intricate and as elaborate as it's turning out to be, but I'm excited now. We make a lot of progress in this video. This is a little bit dated on this footage. This is back before Christmas. I had Austin helping me. We just got the live well wrapped. We're doing some internal sheeting, trying to get this thing wrapped up and ready for paint. I was trying to lay out this front deck sheeting, and this is a little bit different than some of the builds I'm used to because the side of the hull has a big roll to it. So the way I did this, I took a piece that was 8 inches long and I just ran it along the side. I traced it onto my cardboard template. Then I traced it onto the actual aluminum I was gonna put into the deck. Then I went and sheared it out, and this thing fit perfect. It was the first time I'd done it that way, and I'm definitely gonna be using this method in the future if I run into the same issue.
All right, so she looks good. I got to tear all these hatches out of here now. Everything's just sitting in here. I'm gonna take them all out, take them to the powder coaters. Still got a couple little pieces I'm gonna put on either side here of his base, but for the most part, we got everything figured out. The way I cut this out worked out really well. It's nice and tight along this side right here. Looks dope. I'm gonna pull all these hatches out of here, get them off to the powder coaters. Then I'm gonna start trying to figure out my electrical. Got to put my switch panel up inside of this hatch right here. And obviously I got a lot of plumbing to do on this live well. Let's get back to work.
All right, so check it out. All of the hoses are all attached with our stainless steel hose clamps. This is our recirculate pumps hooked up, and this is our main fill pump. Now over here, this one is our overflow. You see how it comes all the way up to the top of the tank, and it comes down at an angle. So any of the water will just gravity feed right out of the boat if it gets too full. This one, this is the flow right valve. Now you don't need the whole flow right system because this is really the only bracket that you need. And I don't really trust those snap-on pieces that they use. I like to use stainless steel hose clamps. It's old-fashioned. It works perfectly fine. I have removed some of these live wells out of boats that have been together for 25, 30 years, And these hose clamps are still on there so tight that I couldn't even get them off. I ended up cutting them off, but they last forever and they don't leak. So I feel a lot safer with something like this. But I've got this set up now to where this is our main recirculate right here. It comes up and into here, and this is our pump out. So this is our recirculate pump that comes in, and then you can pull it out and pump it out. It's got the red fitting inside of here. You just pull this out like that. What that does is it changes between these two attachment valves right here, and it will pump all the water out and right out the side of the hull through that fitting right there at the top. And the one below it, this is for the overflow. And both of these are well below the water line. The water line is down here. Doesn't really matter anyways though. And this is his pump in. This is the main pump in, which basically just runs from outside of the hull and up in through this aerator fitting right there. Now I still got to put the screen on down there. That's the old screen. I'm not going to use that one. I got another one coming. I'm going to put a new one on there. That one works and it will be fine, but it's kind of dirty. And we went through the trouble of making all this. I'm going to put him a new screen on there. That'll be the last piece of the puzzle to finishing up all the plumbing. Now, all the attachments, I put this marine adhesive sealant on it. This is the 5200. I use this 3M 5200 on everything. That's probably the best, sealant, in my opinion, that you can get to put on any of your through-hole fittings or really any fittings that are going to be going into your boat, period. So definitely use a 3M 5200 if you're going to set up your live well. Now that this is done, I still have to hook up the power for this stuff, obviously, and I'm going to be putting another one of these pumps back into this back compartment where he's going to have his Bilge pump. I've got a lot of electrical to figure out in here. I also want to get this boat painted. I'm going to be painting just this top rail myself because we're going to be getting the whole side wrapped. But I am going to have to paint the top rail. I did paint inside of that compartment back there. I might paint in some of these compartments. I'm going to try to turf everything, but I have 9 sheets of turf. And I don't know if that's going to be enough to do every inch of this boat because that rod locker is big. And I think it's probably going to take at least 2 sheets, a sheet and a half to do by itself. And I've got to have enough to sheet the entire top deck and down inside of this floor area right here also. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and paint it. I'm gonna get a little bit of coat of paint on this and then I'm gonna try to run some more of this electrical stuff and we'll circle back after that. Let's get back to work. So I went ahead and put a coat of paint on this boat. I am not a professional painter by any means whatsoever, but the way that this thing works out, it's not gonna have a lot of paint on it. So it wasn't really worth it to go spend a ton of money to get Billy to paint this thing right now because we're only gonna be doing this top rail. And you see, I did the top across here and I did around the bottom. Now this whole back, he decided that he wants to get a wrap on that too. So I'm not gonna worry about painting that. So the only thing you're really gonna see is gonna be this top rail going all the way up on the either side over here and then up underneath the bow. I might have to come back and touch it up a little bit, but for the most part, it looks pretty good. I did get all the hatches back. You see they're sitting right here on this gigantic pallet down here. I haven't taken them out of the wrapping and checked them all out, but we're getting ready to do that because I need to find the one that's for the electrical panel because I wanna go ahead and install the switch panel, the fuse block, and start pulling all these wires in here. Let's get these things out of the pallet and let's get them into the boat and see what they look like. Let's get back to work. All right, so I got the electrical hatch made up. I got these hatches out of the packaging and man, that powder coat just looks so good on these hatches. They did a killer job. My powder coater's under new ownership. And I tell you what, they definitely did not lose any of the quality. If anything, it might even be a little bit better. These are the cooler pieces. They're still wrapped up. I didn't have to take all of them out. I took these 4 out and then I found this one. This is my electrical panel hatch. Now you saw me, I was just cutting these holes in here and stuff. And that's basically what it's gonna look like. It's pretty simple. This is going to be his fuse panel. All of his wires are going to come in through here. I got these rubber grommets that fit into all these holes. And then this is his live well timer, and these are just gonna be switches. He's got 6 switches in here. So this circle was basically just traced in there because that's where the handle's at. And I wanted to make sure I didn't put anything there. Obviously this handle's gonna drop in here. And if I have anything in that area, well, the handle's gonna hit it. So this thing turned out sick. That's pretty much it though. These 2 holes on the side, that's how you attach this thing in. And you can take this right out. See, got my switches right behind it. It's just a hole in there. Now the fuse block is just sitting in there because I gotta paint this pan, but that's where it's gonna be sitting. And the way I'll mount this, it's got these 4 mounting holes in here. Well, instead of putting a bolt through them with a nut, what I usually like to do is just come from the back side with a big headed rivet, shoot them in. That way you gotta worry about this thing loosening up or those nuts falling off the back of it. But either way, you could use bolts, it would be fine. But I'm gonna take this stuff out. I'm gonna take this pan, get this thing painted, start pulling some wires in here. Let's get back to work. All right, so check it out. This is his big front storage battery compartment. Now, the way this thing is set up, we got 2 custom trays in here. I did have to add an extra lip here to attach to the floor and here because this floor in here is like a V bottom. And I didn't want these trays to be sloped with the bottom of this boat because then these batteries would all be wanting to slide over. So I made this to where it's taller on this side. And now they're sitting perfectly flush and flat with the boat. That way they won't be sloped. What we've got is a big one here. This one is gonna house 320 amp hour lithium batteries. It's gonna control his trolling motor. Over here, we've got a smaller pan. And the reason I moved this one over is because I'm gonna mount his black box right here. That way he can get to it if he needs to check it or reset it or anything. And then up in this little pocket is where all his chargers are gonna be at, because each one of these batteries comes with its own separate charger. I am going to run all of the chargers together into a plug in the back of the boat. That way he doesn't have to worry about plugging in 5 different chargers for 5 different batteries. He'll have all 5 of these on one plug. And he's got 3 200 amp hour batteries that are going in the back. Those are gonna be on a separate plug. So what he's gonna have over here is going to be 2 100 amp hour batteries. I'm gonna run these together parallel. That way they'll drain evenly and they're basically going to power all the electronics in the boat. It's gonna power his black box and be right here next to it. And then I'm gonna have it run right into a switch panel right here. And that's gonna power all the pumps and the lights that are going in the boat, all the strip lights. Everything's gonna be ran off of these 2 100 amp hour batteries right here. With the electrical pan being right here next to it, it's a short run for all of my cables, which is awesome because I don't want to run all this stuff to the back of the boat, and it just makes it a whole lot easier. So it's going to be a cool setup the way it is. And then when he pulls his pan out of here, he'll obviously have access to these pumps and he can get to this battery. He'll also have access inside of here. Now I will have straps to go around to hold these batteries, and I'm going to have a strap that attaches here, over and down to the side here to hold all 3 of these batteries. I threw an extra sheet in here, painted it. I did paint these walls because I don't know how much turf I'm gonna have. The plan is to at least turf this floor in here. And if we have enough, we'll turf all of these sides. But I wanted to get some paint on there just in case we don't have enough turf to do everything. And I'm not gonna be able to get in here and paint this once I start putting these batteries and hooking all this stuff up. Now that I got this put in here and painted, I'm gonna let this dry for a few minutes. and I'm gonna go ahead and work on this bilge pump in the back of the boat. Let me show you guys what we got going on with that. All right, so this is his big back storage compartment. Now he's got some batteries that are going in here that are literally humongous. I mean, they take up this whole side. It takes up this whole pan in the center, the whole side over there. You have 3 big batteries. I think they might even be 220 amp. I'm gonna check those out in just a second. I'll show those to you guys. But I wanna get this bilge pump in here, and I was really getting ready to start running some of these LED lights. Now the way his gunnel cap is, it's kind of weird. I don't know what's up with these both tracks in here. This bottom one is really big. I know this is like a Versatrack system. It could be used to put rod holders, cup holders, any type of Versatrack system stuff will fit in here. This one, I'm not really sure about. Maybe this is set up for some type of a special duck blind or something. I don't know. But what we're gonna do is we're going to use this opening for his LED lights. We're gonna run his strip lights right there. I could put them up underneath this bottom, but it really only sticks out about 3/8 of an inch. And there's not gonna be room for me to run the turf all the way up flush to it and then have a light in there. So I'm gonna stick those lights right inside of there. I think it's gonna look cool. There's gonna be a little place to hide them. But I want to get those ran and all the wiring up to the switch panel so I can start installing everything into the switch panel. And one of the things I gotta do is figure out how I'm gonna get the wires from here down through this quarter panel and back into here. Because the way this thing was set up originally, if you look underneath here, that's the barb fitting for his through hole fitting that's gonna come down here to his bilge pump. Now the way it was set up originally, it just ran right along here, and then, well, his deck was set up differently. It ran across here and then it dipped down here. Well, I'd have to run it all the way across here and then bring it in here, and there's just gonna be an exposed hose laying across his boat right here. I could do it that way, but I'm gonna have 2 wires also coming off of here for the strip lights, and I really don't wanna lay all those wires out here on this deck. I wanna run this turf all the way out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut a hole in the side of this panel right here. It's gonna be big. It's gonna be an access hole, and I'll just put a plate over it with some screws. But I need to be able to get inside of here because this whole thing is packed full of foam. And I'm gonna come back over in this corner with a hole saw up through here and drill my hole in there. And that hole is gonna be an area where I can pass the hose. Is gonna be for his through hole bilge pump out fitting. And I can also run the wires coming down through there and through here, and I can run them back up to the switch panel that's in the front of the boat. That way it'll look nice and won't have any type of hoses or electrical wires running on this deck right here. I wasn't gonna do that originally, but it needs to be done. It needs to look good, it needs to look right. It's gonna make my job easier once I do this turf. I'm not gonna have to worry about having any type of cables or wires running up here. So that's what I'm gonna do. Cut this hole in here and dig this foam out of here. Let's get back to work. All right, so check it out. Now we've got a bilge pump, and this is a float for the bilge. Now the way this is gonna be hooked up is gonna be mounted to the bracket, the one that you just saw me painting that's hanging up over there underneath the heater. Let's put a coat of paint on that, and I pre-drilled all the holes because this pump, you twist it, you can take the cartridge off in case you need to replace it, but the housing for it is gonna be riveted into the bottom of the plate. And the plate is gonna have 2 screws here and here up into this vertical wall. That way, if you need to take the whole thing out, you can take those 2 screws out, take the whole bracket out and service it. And when I hook this up to the switch panel, this is always gonna be hot. As long as there's power in the switch panel, the float is hot. That way, he doesn't have to keep an eye on this, or if he leaves the boat in the water and it fills up with water, then it will automatically come on and it will start pumping water out of here. But it will also be on a switch in case something gets jammed up inside of this float or it just gives out. He can manually just flip the switch and it will turn on his bilge pump. Now I cut this hole in here. This is a gigantic pain in the ass, but you can see up underneath it here. Got it all the way up into the corner up there. And I put a hole in there. It's kind of hard to see from that view, but I put a hole down here. That's where his hose is gonna run out. And you can see it right here. That's way cleaner than running that hose along the top of his deck. and then my hose will just attach right to the through hole fitting right down there, through here and out of this hole here. And then this will just be a removable panel. I'm gonna cut this panel, make it 1 inch bigger, and I'll come back and just put some screws in there, some stainless screws or some rivets. That way he can remove that if he has to get in there, but more than likely, he's not gonna have to get up inside of there. Now, when that hose comes through here, out this hole, it will run right across here, and it will hook right on this 90-degree elbow fitting into the bilge pump. And that's a very simple way to hook this thing up, and it's gonna look real clean running it like that. Also, I'm gonna run the wires through this same hole and inside of here, down in here, and I might just drag them up underneath of this transom, or I might take them and shoot them back up through there and move them inside of this box to get over to the switch panel. So I'm gonna have 2 wires coming out of here, one for interior and one for exterior LED strip lights. Same thing on this side over here. I'm gonna have this both sides LED strip lights. So I gotta run all 4 of those wires up to the switch panel. The lights that I'm gonna put in here are pretty dope. They came from custom LED and fiber optics, and they're blue. It's gonna be matching the whole pattern of everything. It's gonna be pretty cool the way that they work because they are a blue-white combination. So depending on how you hook them up with reverse polarity, you can have them blue or you could have them white. They're both gonna be the same. That way you could have white inside, blue outside, blue and blue, or white and white, however he wants to run them. I'm gonna try to hook them up with 2 separate switches. That way he can have the ability to run them as 2 different colors. So that's gonna be dope. Before I do that though, I do wanna put one more coat of paint on this rail. Because once I get this LED strip inside of here, then obviously I'm not gonna be able to paint it again. So I wanna put one more good coat of paint on the whole rail all the way around, and then I'm gonna let that dry overnight. Tomorrow I'm gonna start running these LED strips in here. I'm gonna hook up the bilge pump and get everything ran, all the electrical up into the switch panel. He's also gonna have LED lights inside of all the compartments. I got a lot of wires to run this thing. So I'm gonna show you guys how I do all that in the next episode. I do want to show you guys this battery though. This thing is humongous. Let's go check this out. We got a bunch of batteries over here. These are his 120 amp hour batteries. We're only gonna be putting 3 of those in. He's got an extra one he's not gonna be using. But look at this mamma jamma. Holy cannoli. This thing's huge. It's got 2 handles on it. This one is the 200 amp hour battery. And I know the video probably doesn't do this thing justice, but check this out. This battery is 20 and a half, almost 21 inches, and it's about 9.5 inches wide. That's a huge battery. I mean, I got huge hands, and whew, I can't imagine having these things in the back of my boat, man. But we got 3 of these. 3 of these bad boys going in here. There's 2 more, 1 in that box and 1 in that box. So this is gonna take up the entire back compartment by the transom, and they're gonna be in like a U shape in there. And I got all these figured out for the size wise they're gonna fit in there. It's really the only place in the entire boat that I can fit 3 batteries that are this size. But it's gonna work out good because these are just for the outboard, so they're right next to it. Shouldn't be much of a run to hook up the wiring for it. So there is one more thing I wanna show you guys. Let's go check that out. All right, so these are the LED strip lights we're gonna be putting in there. These are dope. I'm gonna leave a link for these in the description of the video from customledinc.com. And check it out. This is our sea deck. We got 9 sheets of the blue aqua camo. This is going to look really dope in that boat. And he's got some cool seats and the wrap. This thing is just going to be insane. I love the colorway. All right, guys, so the build has come a long way. This thing is starting to look dope. I'm getting excited about this thing. We're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, finally. I'm gonna go ahead and throw one more coat of paint on this because that's gonna be it. Once I start running all this electrical in here tomorrow, there'll be no more painting. I gotta paint inside of this big compartment right here too, just because I don't know how much turf we're gonna end up with. Hopefully we got enough to turf everything, but on the safe side, we're at least gonna paint all the vertical walls. I appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like, subscribe button, leave a comment. Y'all want some merch, you can check that out on trick10s.net. If you want me to help you out with your build, leave a comment or shoot me an email at professionalwelding@gmail.com. I will see you guys the next time. Thanks for watching. Let's get back to work.